I lent my brother $10,000. He vanished and bought a new car. Asterisk, my brother and I weren't always close, but we were always family. That used to mean something to me. Growing up, we didn't have much, just a two-bedroom apartment and a single mom working double shifts. My brother Jake was 4 years older, and for most of my childhood, I looked up to him like some kind of streetwise superhero. He had that charm, the kind of guy who could talk himself out of anything, or into anything. That be why the time I hit my 20s and started making real money, freelance tech work, web security gigs, that kind of thing, Jake had already burned through 3 jobs and 2 relationships. He always had big plans, but somehow, life kept getting in the way, as he liked to put it. I didn't judge. Not at first. That we reconnected during the pandemic. Everything felt so uncertain, and somehow that made family feel important again. Jake had been hit hard, lost his bartending job, couldn't make rent, had to move in with some friends who didn't exactly scream responsible adults. I'd send him money here and there. $50, 100. I figured, I'm doing well. Why not help out? But then he called me late one night, voice shaking. Dude, he said, I need your help. For real this time. That's when he told me he was in a bind. Like, a serious one. He owed money to a couple of guys, and he made it sound like they weren't the kind you keep waiting. He needed 10 grand. $10,000. That I remember sitting there, staring at the phone, thinking, no way, that's insane. But he kept talking. Told me he'd pay me back in 3 months. Max said he had a solid job lined up, a trucking gig out west. High pay, legit company. He just needed to get these guys off his back so he could leave town safely. Now, here's the thing. I didn't have $10,000 just sitting around, but I had it in savings. Emergency money. And I don't know if it was guilt, nostalgia, or just blind optimism, but I said yes. Don't make me regret this. I told him. He laughed. You won't. I swear on mom's life. I wired the money. The next morning, for a while, everything seemed fine. Jake texted now and then, said thanks again, told me he was getting things in order. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Then, silence. A week passed. Then 2. I texted, no reply. Called, straight to voicemail. Checked his socials, nothing new. That pit in my stomach started growing. Finally, after almost a month of nothing, I got a DM from an old friend of his. Just one sentence. Yo, your bro just pulled up in a brand new Challenger. I froze. There had to be a mistake, right? Jake didn't have that kind of money. That I asked for a pic. He sent one. There was Jake, grinning ear to ear, arms folded on the hood of a black Dodge Challenger, license plate still temporary. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut.at first. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he got a loan. Maybe it was used. Maybe the trucking job paid up front. But deep down, I knew that was my money. That he didn't need help. He just wanted a fresh start. On my dime. I called again and again, left voicemails, angry, confused, desperate. Nothing. That's when it hit me. He wasn't in trouble. He played me. My own brother, the guy I helped through school fights, bailed out of jail once, vouched for with mom. And now he was out there, burning rubber while I was lying awake at night trying to understand how I could have been so stupid. But the story doesn't end there, because a few weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. It was Jake. But this wasn't an apology. It was a warning. When I saw Jake's name on the caller ID, my heart did this weird, painful lurch. After weeks of silence, after discovering he'd used my 10 grand to buy a damn car. Now he was calling me? I didn't even think. I just picked up. Jake, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You've got some. Shut up and listen. He cut me off. His voice was low, sharp, and cold in a way I'd never heard before. There was a pause. Background noise. Like wind. A car, maybe. You don't know what you're messing with, he said. So just stop looking for me. Stay out of it. What? I felt this strange disconnect in my brain. Like I was talking to a stranger wearing my brother's voice. What the hell are you talking about? You stole from me, Jake. That was my savings. You said you were in danger. I was. He snapped. Still am. But you poking around makes it worse. You keep calling people, asking questions. You're going to get the wrong kind of attention. I paused, my mouth dry. Are you threatening me? No, he said. I'm trying to protect you. Just stop. Click. That was it. The call lasted maybe 40 seconds. but it echoed in my head for days. At first, I was furious. Not just about the money, but about the audacity to call me after everything and act like I was the problem. But the more I replayed that call, the more something felt off. He sounded scared, not just guilty or defensive, actually afraid that IT didn't make sense. If he ran off with the money just to party, show off a new car, live the fast life, why warn me to stop looking? Why talk about attention? Unless there was something else going on, unless he really was in trouble, and dragged me into it without meaning to. I decided to dig deeper. I started with the friend who'd sent me the photo of Jake and the Challenger. Let's call him Nate. Nate and I weren't close, but we'd crossed paths a few times. When I messaged him again, I was expecting a casual reply. Instead, he responded with, "Dude, you should probably leave this alone. Jake's not with good people." I asked what that meant. He just left me on read. I went online, pulled up public records, traffic tickets, change of address filings, anything I could find. Nothing recent. The car hadn't been officially registered under Jake's name, which was weird. Maybe he bought it under someone else's ID, or maybe it wasn't bought at all. I was spiraling, and I knew it. But I couldn't let it go. So I did something reckless. I drove to Jake's old place, the apartment he'd shared with his ex before things went south. She still lived there, and when she opened the door and saw me, her eyes widened. "I knew you'd come," she said quietly. "What?" She invited me in. Her name's Sarah. We hadn't talked much in the past, but she looked tired, like someone who'd been holding in secrets for too long. She poured coffee, sat down across from me, then said, "He's not the same, you know. Jake. Not since he started running with that guy from the garage." "What guy?" She hesitated. "Big dude. Face tattoos. Name's Trey. Always carried cash, always driving a different car. Jake said he was running side jobs for him." That's when things got weird. "How weird?" Sarah leaned in. "One night, Jake came home with blood on his shirt. Wouldn't talk about it. Just showered and said he had to leave town soon." I felt cold. "And then," she added, "he asked me if I could stash a bag for him. Said not to open it, not to ask questions." I said no. That's when he got really angry. Like, scary angry. She paused, then said, "You don't owe him anything, you know." I drove home in silence. Was it possible Jake had gotten into something criminal? Worse than just lying to me? Victor. Everything was starting to point in that direction. And the $10,000? That wasn't for debts. That was an investment. A way to buy himself into a new life. One with danger and probably violence. But then, why contact me? Why warn me? Unless he still cared. Unless part of him was trying to protect me. Even while running headfirst into whatever mess he'd created. A few nights later, I was sitting on my couch, trying to decide if I should call the cops or just let it go, when I heard something outside. Car tires. A door shutting. Then, a knock. It was almost midnight. I looked through the peephole. No one. Another knock. I opened the door slowly and froze. At my feet was a manila envelope. No name. No note. I picked it up. Inside, a burner phone and a single Polaroid. The photo, Jake, bruised, in a warehouse-looking place, holding up a sign with that day's date, and behind him, that same car, the Dodge Challenger. I stared at that photo for a long time. Jake, my brother, bruised, pale, eyes sunken like he hadn't slept in days. The sign in his hands wasn't just for proof of life. It was a message. He was being held. Or worse, he was part of something. Where being seen like that was a warning. I flipped through the envelope again. Just the burner phone. No charger, no SIM info, no note. I turned it on. There was one contact saved. No name, just a number, and one text. "If he talks, he dies." That's when the panic hit me. This wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't just about a car or even betrayal. This was about something darker, something criminal, something dangerous. I debated calling the police. I really did. But if they got involved, and this was cartel-related or gang-related, or who the hell knew what, would that get Jake killed? I needed more information first. I had to understand what he was involved. And before I dragged anyone else into this, I did the only thing I could think of. I texted the number. I don't care what he did. I just want him safe. No reply. I waited. An hour. Then 2. At 3:12 a.m., the burner buzzed. Then bring $15,000 to the old rail yard. 9 p.m. tomorrow. Alone. No location details. No coordinates. Just the old rail yard. It took me all of 5 minutes to realize which one they meant. There was only one decommissioned site within a 50-mile radius, an abandoned shipping depot where trains hadn't run since the early 2000s, and $15,000? I didn't have that. The next morning, I did what I swore I never would. I told my mom that I didn't give her every detail. Just said that Jake was in trouble, maybe kidnapped, and that I needed help pulling together the money. She cried and cursed and said Jake was always chasing shadows and leaving pain behind. But then she opened her safe and handed me her emergency cash stash. She didn't even ask how much I needed. She just gave me all of it. That it got me close. The rest? I emptied my savings, sold my laptop, pawned some gear. I even cashed out a couple of crypto holdings I'd been holding onto for years. By 8:30 p.m., I had the money, and my heart was pounding. The rail yard was every bit as creepy as I'd imagined. Rusting metal, cracked pavement, the wind howling through half-collapsed sheds. That I parked where the message said, just past the gate, near an old tower. Lights flickered inside one of the buildings. That I stepped out of the car, holding a duffel bag full of cash, trying to keep my hands from shaking. Someone walked out of the shadows. It wasn't Jake. It was a tall guy, muscular, mid-40s, neck covered in faded tattoos. Trey. Had to be him. He didn't say a word. Just motioned me forward. I held up the bag. Where's Jake? He gestured toward the building, and that's when I saw him, sitting inside, duct tape around his wrists, a busted lip, and blood dried around his nose. Is he alive? I asked. Trey nodded. You got the money? I dropped the bag at his feet. He opened it, counted quickly, then gave a grunt of approval. Your brother's an idiot, he said, as if that somehow made everything okay. He thought he could run. He can't. What did he do? He looked at me, eyes sharp. He talked. That's what he did. Got nervous. Thought someone was watching. Tried to cut a deal with someone he shouldn't have called. That money he borrowed, he used it to buy in. Then he tried to walk out. I swallowed hard. What kind of deal? Trey stared at me for a moment, then chuckled. You really don't want to know. He turned and walked away. Two more guys appeared from the shadows and untied Jake. They shoved him toward me like garbage being returned. He's your problem now, one of them said. If he talks again, next time we don't return him. They got in a black SUV and drove off into the night. Jake couldn't look at me. Victor, he was limping. His face was swollen. He looked like a ghost, like the version of himself that once had charm and confidence had been hollowed out and thrown in a ditch. I didn't speak until we were back in the car. Start talking, I said, driving slowly toward the highway. All of it. He stared out the window. Then, after a long silence, he whispered. I tried to back out. They said I was family now, that I knew too much. I got scared. Tried to tell someone I knew in the state police, an old friend. They must have had someone watching him. Next day, they picked me up. Why didn't you tell me all this before? He looked at me, finally. Because you're the only one who still believes I'm worth saving. That hit me harder than I expected. When we got home, I let him shower, gave him food, let him sleep. But I didn't sleep that night. I sat there, staring at that damn car key. Because yeah, he still had the key to that Dodge Challenger. That car, paid with my money. And I realized this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because when someone tries to leave a world like that, they don't just walk away. And now I was in it, too. Asterisk, I thought it would end there. Jake was home. He was alive. And I had done what no one else in our family ever really did. I saved him, no matter the cost. But if there's one thing I've learned, you don't just walk away from the kind of people Jake crossed. For a few days, everything was quiet. Jake barely spoke. He spent most of his time sleeping, eating, pacing. He didn't touch his phone, didn't watch TV. It was like he was afraid to exist too loudly. I kept checking the street outside my window. Paranoid, looking for black SUVs, strange faces, anything. Then one morning, he was gone. I woke up to an empty apartment and a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. I'm sorry. I can't stay here. You saved my life. I won't let you risk yours. Tell Mom I love her. That was it. Just like that, he vanished again. Weeks passed. I went back to work. Tried to rebuild my savings. Tried to sleep. Tried to forget. But something kept gnawing at me. This wasn't just about stolen money anymore. This was about how easily trust breaks, how deep lies can go, and how blood doesn't always mean safety. I started seeing a therapist. First time in my life. I didn't even know how to explain the story without sounding insane that I told her about the money, about the betrayal, about the photo, the burner phone, the drop-off. She didn't flinch. "You're not crazy," she said. "You're grieving a person who's still alive." That hit me like a truck. Jake wasn't dead. But the version of him I once believed in, the brother I admired, was 3 months later. I got a letter in the mailed no return address. Inside was a folded napkin with a short message scribbled in black ink. "The car's yours now. Titles. Under your name. I left the keys at Mom's. Sorry for everything. Stay safe." And under that, a photo, not of Jake, that of me at a coffee shop. On my phone, unaware the picture was taken. The timestamp? 2 days ago. That was when I knew I was still being watched. Not by Jake by them. I drove straight to my mom's. She didn't know anything about the keys, but I found them in her mailbox. Inside an envelope, like some kind of final gesture. And, yeah, I went to check the car. It was parked in a random lot downtown, untouched. Still had the same smell, the same energy. It felt like touching a ghost. The title transfer was real. Somehow Jake had forged or arranged the paperwork. The car was mine, but I didn't want it. That I couldn't even look at it without remembering everything I'd lost. Everything I'd nearly destroyed trying to save someone who didn't want to be saved. That I sold it. Every last penny went into debt, therapy bills, and back into my emergency savings. That IT didn't fix what was broken. But it was a start. That a year has passed now that I haven't heard from Jake since. That no calls. No letters. No burner phones. No cryptic texts. But sometimes, when I walk home late at night, I still feel eyes on me. Sometimes I check my rearview mirror and wonder if one of those cars is just a little too familiar. Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm not. But I've learned something important, something I wish I'd never had to learn. Blood means nothing without trust. You can love someone, fight for them, even risk everything for them. But you can't save a person who refuses to leave the fire, especially when they start pulling you in with them. Jake made his choices, and I made mine. This chapter of my life is over, but I still lock my doors twice. That I still check my windows, because some ghosts don't haunt you with screams, they haunt you with silence.